use cases of Web3 through DePIN.
Hello everyone, Dana from DePIN Hub here, and today we have the guys from Huddle01 in the podcast again. Actually, I interviewed them back in, I think it was beginning of the year on episode 12. So make sure to, if you want to know more about the project, what they're doing, in a lot of specifics about this project, go check the episode 12 on Hotspotty and DePIN Hub podcast, of course. Anyway, this episode we're going to be talking more focus on the node sales. What is a node sale? What is a node? There's a lot of things happening in the news now about this excitement that's happening. And also Huddle01 recently announced they're going to have like their own node sales. And we decided to bring them into the podcast to talk about what they're building, why they're building, and why is this so exciting. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining the podcast today. And yeah, let's get started and let's introduce yourselves and touch briefly on Huddle01 as well.
Awesome. So I'm Ayush. I'm one of the co-founder and CEO of Huddle01. Daniel, as always, a pleasure meeting you. Huddle is a decentralized real-time communication network, which makes communication much more faster, much more private, and creates a new bottom-up economy where essentially, rather than a data center running these different kind of communication, it's your own laptop, which can do that, making sure that there's a new economical pathway which gets created. We have built our own app, which we're using right now for doing the call, which is similar to Google Meet, Zoom, X Spaces, whatever you're using, but completely decentralized. We have our own SDKs, which power audio and video calls for anyone who requires audio video in their own apps, gaming, AI, metaverse, healthcare, edtech, you name it. And now we are essentially decentralizing the nodes, which means that right now these nodes are being run by us. So this call, which we are doing, this is happening on my node, but in the future, it can be run by people themselves. And that's what we are doing with terms of node sales.
Awesome.
Yeah, so like a brief background about me, I'm Susmit, I'm technical co-founder at Huddle01. So previously I've been an entrepreneur, and a vivid open source programmer. So during my college days, I made India's first decentralized exchange and sold it to CoinDCX. And from there, in one of the hackathons, I met with Ayush and started building Huddle01. And that it grew into this network that we're actually distributing it through this node sale mechanics.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining the podcast, and it's really nice to be here talking about this. And I think it's super interesting, right? You guys have been building for quite some time, right? I think it was like 4 years, 3, 5. How long have you been on this project?
It's been 4 years.
Yeah. Well, it's not. It's similar time, I guess, to Hotspotty. We've been building. We started Hotspotty back in 2020. So yeah, it's been a long process, and it's exciting to see what you guys started and what you guys are now, right? What is the next steps for the project? What have you built so far? And what are you guys right now getting ready for the next steps?
Yeah, so what we have seen is we have built the products, and the people are actually using this product. We have 7 million of minutes. Then we also build SDKs, and SDKs are ranging from your mobile SDKs to web SDKs to your gaming SDKs on those part. So platform is ready to be used. It can be having this users the next very minute from it. And right now, in fact, we're chatting on this platform. But that's the thing that we realized, that we want to make a network that is open, neutral, borderless, decentralized, and censorship resistant. So these properties are right now not in this Web 2 RTC system, right? So if we make this real-time communication and network, we get these properties out of the box. This gives us increase in performance. It gives an increase in security, and it also basically brings down the price of the service. AWS charges a hell lot of money. So since we are kind of sidelining the AWS, because user now themselves have their computational and bandwidth resources, we can coordinate them with economical incentives and make AWS, a decentralized AWS of our own, which is comprised of users home, and you can use that infrastructure to power audio video call. So that's where the core innovation actually lies. And then we've been building a lot of algorithms to basically optimize these things. We compressed all of those things, made it into a home server that we call it a media node. And this media node can run into end user infrastructure, or they can in fact also run on NAS, if someone wants to just delegate that process.
Yeah, I think it's very important for people who are listening to understand when you use Google Meet, right? There's reasons why those things are free, and if you actually want to have something that's private, it's very costly to run. If you want to run, the infrastructure that Google has or Zoom has, on your own, you rely on Amazon servers, Azure, or whatever. It's very, very costly and very complicated, right? So I think what you guys are building is super important and super needed as well. to get out of this monopoly for those companies that they run all this infrastructure, but I'm sure there's like a lot of extra incentives behind that you don't know. That goes with the saying that if it's free, then you're the product. So I'm sure that they use a lot of those contents that from your calls to train data sets and do a lot of other shenanigans, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we never know like what actually incentivizes them, right? So in this case, like the media nodes, right? They're getting their tokens. They're not interested in your data, or like they won't be having that enough of data because it's not concentrated at one place. So there is no honeypot of data. And right now, like the data is more valuable than the USD because it's being used to train the models. So if you see all the LLM models out there, they're kind of exhausted all the human knowledge that is available on the internet, right? So which means like it's a common knowledge, and common knowledge means like the price of the AI actually goes down. But then the new data that is being generated, that basically comes from serendipity of humans. So right now, like since we three are interacting, so there's kind of new data that is being generated because like we exchange our ideas and knowledge and everything, right? So like platform like real-time communication network also produces this data which is very valuable in this nature, right? And this should not be concentrated into few hands. It has to be distributed. And even in fact, if that's generating a value, that value has to go back to the people who are actually generating that value, right? So we can do this with this tokens, right? So now if the network is generating value either by making people interact on the platform cross continentally, that value gets captured into the token and they being routed to media node operators.
Yeah, that goes into I think the next question that I wanted to ask. I think next week you guys are going to start we call it node sales, right? Up to this point, we've been talking about that. Now it's going to have the date that the whitelist is going to start. Can you talk about that, and also what is a node? Like I know for using media node, but in general, like I see a lot of in crypto in general node sales. Why is this important? Why is it a good thing right now? And why people should pay attention?
Yeah. So like the one way of looking at the node is like the internet traditionally was designed as a client server mechanism, right? Node actually makes it as a P2P mechanisms on the that part of it. So in client server, what happens is the server gets all the resources and client has the small resources. But this need not be the case. So that actually gave rise to like number of nodes, right? Like making this nodes working in a very bottom-up fashion. So Bitcoin actually introduces the concept of node, and they with this node, like there are like game theoretical models generated so that they can coordinate this node. But all of those nodes are coordinated for one thing, right? In Bitcoin, the nodes are coordinated for a payment system, like you can send and receive Bitcoin. On Ethereum, they are being coordinated to run those smart contracts on top of it, which is DePi applications and NFTs. And similarly is for Solana, which that we have. But we can also use these nodes and we can coordinate with cryptocurrency incentives for live audio video routing, right? So that's where the node part is. And it's basically for any network, a decentralized network to operate, the node has to be there. Like it's like a basic atomic unit of that network.
Yeah, and just adding on to that, Daniel, I think internet was started. The mission of internet was to be decentralized, and it was decentralized for a very very long time when it kick-started. At least let's talk about real-time communication. When real-time communication came on the internet in the sense of an audio and video call, Skype was one of the first, if you remember back in the day, and it was completely P2P. It was a peer-to-peer call. No data was being routed to a central server, and you were having a good quality conversation. But the bottleneck with those peer-to-peer calls, so that's not, it was not scalable, and because of that, only 2 to 3 people were able to join a Skype call. But and then a lot of people figured out a way to scale this call from 2 to 3 people to 2,000 people. But to do that, it came at a cost of centralizing the network. That means you need to send all of these data to a central server, which is in North Virginia, or which is in any of these data centers. That led to a scalable call, but that also led to three bad things happen. Number one, performance went down a lot. If you're in Africa, you still have to route your calls to a server in US. Same if you're in India or in APAC region, you still have to route a server in US because that's where the largest data centers are. Privacy went for a toss. There was something called a Zoom bombing back in 2020 in terms of COVID. It was a very well-known fact. And third was that all the value accrual was happening to either Zoom as a platform or to AWS in general. And now with this node architecture, all of this value comes back to you now. and nodes become a very good, as Sushmit mentioned, an atomic unit, but it's a very interesting and very good phenomena to decentralize the network with 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 having an economical way to have the serious people join this network, run this network themselves, and with the digital resource networks of our own laptops increasing a lot, becoming better day by day, and with bandwidth becoming better, because we are now have 5G, we have Starlink, we have 6G coming up. You'll be able to have better bandwidth by day and day, and you don't require data centers anymore moving forward. And we can have this whole mission of decentralizing the internet back again, with the improvement which is happening in our daily lives. So uh, for making sure that you can decentralize the network, node sales becomes that mechanism where you can decentralize it, and I can also create a capital formation exercise where community ends up owning a stake in your network itself, which is not possible in AWS. You cannot buy an AWS stock; you can buy an Amazon stock. Similarly, you cannot have a Zoom stock by just running Zoom, by using Zoom itself, and that completely changes. So it's a new economical pathway which gets created now with node sales.
Yeah, 100%. And how are you guys now thinking about the node sales? What are the next steps and how will it work?
We have media nodes right now. We call it media nodes because it powers audio and video calls. To do that, we are doing it in two phases. There's a whitelist phase, and then there is a public sale phase. Whitelist phase is for anyone who has essentially been a part of Huddle01 community from before. That means have used Huddle01 Meet platform, have used Huddle01 audio spaces before, has been part of Discord community, has been part of our partner communities in general. They are the part of whitelist sale. Whitelisting has started already. So you can go on to whitelist.huddle01.com and can whitelist yourself and get any of the tiers which you're applicable to. Right now, there are 20,500 nodes which is getting sold from tier 1 to tier 10. The price increases 10% every tier. It's not a skyrocketing increase, but increases 10% every tier. So the first tier is starting at a price of 0.12 ETH, something around $320, and it goes all the way up to the tier 10, which is 10% higher every tier, and it goes around $500 to $600 at the end. And yeah, this whitelist sale is starting on 6th of November, which is essentially a couple of days from now. And then our public sale is starting on 8th of November. It will keep on going on, and the earlier you're able to join the network and run the network, the more benefit you have, because you earn 500 tokens on a daily basis. So in terms of just the dates, whitelisting is happening till 4th. That means you can whitelist yourself till 4th of November. Whitelist sale is happening on 6th of November. Public sale is happening on 8th of November. We're selling 20,500 nodes from tier 1 to tier 10. And in 2 weeks of time after that, you will be getting your nodes airdropped to you. And you can start running these nodes on your own laptop, on a Raspberry Pi, on a NAS provider. If you want to do like a large scale, create a large scale media node network of yourself. And yeah, that's about it. And then you earn 500 tokens for the testnet phase, and then you earn more tokens in the mainnet phase as well, because Huddle already has demand. You already have demand, so you can actually power this demand to the nodes which is most nearer to you, based on 3-4 parameters: availability, location, quality of service, and a couple of more things. So yeah, that's the kind of segue.
And super interesting. And can you talk a little bit about fair node sales, right? Because I think we've been hearing about a lot of node sales. Some of them are not so good. Sometimes the people just try to extract money from the community with some shenanigans sales. Because we see some like node sales providers, they have like thousands of nodes that you can run, but a lot of them, you start looking at the projects and they're like, okay, this thing doesn't look very real.
Yeah, so typically like one way to think about it, like do your own due diligence on the project in itself, right? Whether they've been around for like a quite a bit time, or they like just popped up grabbing that opportunity and all of those part. Like, and I think the community has become kind of smart nowadays. Like, since we are in this experience, we have been seeing this a lot of, because we have seen like a lot of projects coming. Some has been like very successful, and some have been not able to make it, right? So like, but like, let me give like example of Carvi, Sofon, Ether, Zai, right? Most of them project, even after like doing the node sale, have been super successful on the TG side of it, right? So the token and everything is performing very well on those. But there have been other projects, like I kind of not heard names, but it's just like every other day I listen like there's another project doing node sale. But the very one thing that we need to see is like, are they pop-ups? what's like the future longevity, like would they stay for next 2 to 3 years and not, and do their node actually do some work, right? So like not kind of FOMO in and all of those part, because most of the time like that can be gamed, right? Like smart contracts or through contacts and all of those part, right? So we have to be very like while purchasing the node, like the thing is like that node has to do some kind of credible work into the network in itself. It should not be like it's just like for just like a
Magic.
yeah, it should not be fugazi, that we would say. That's one thing. The projects would need to have some kind of history. Check their socials. If their socials and community is very engaging, it's like not like you need to see everything everyone is talking about it. There are like good people watching for those projects. So all of those factors like would basically like actually speed out the better project. But nevertheless, I think you are like quite right over here. Like there are many projects I think that are kind of just popping up on those part. So yeah, that's one thing. But like it's just like how internet was actually starting. So you used to see like a lot of hacks happening when the crypto was in the beginning stage, even during the ICO stage, like the Filecoin, Ethereum. So we have seen very good projects that have actually came out from the ICO stage and became very successful. But 80-90% of the project in ICO were like kind of scam.
Yeah.
Just part. So I think that's like nature. I would say very natural process. But yeah, they're definitely good.
Yeah, and just one more thing in terms of doing a fair note sale, which I believe is that which happened in ICOs back in the days. That was very fair, and that's why this still, if you see on crypto Twitter, everybody talks about ICOs coming back, with centralized exchanges charging a humongous amount of percentages for doing your launch. People, like, at the end of the day, community is the one which is facing all the heat in that sense. And to change that, ICO was one of the like was a breath of fresh air back in the day. Because of regulations, unfortunately, it never came into picture. But now you have a better mechanism where now you're actually doing some task in the network, protecting the network, running the network. So for that also, to do a fair node sale, you need to have community get the earliest of tiers possible, earliest of way. Like they should enter first always, or they should enter at an equal time, so that everybody has an equal opportunity. That's how we have also prepared. Like if you are seeing any of the node sales, the good thing to see is that when is community able to enter that, or has it been stonewalled by not the community people, but in general the private. And that's how we think about it in general, because if you want to have a longevity in your network, you need to have community enter first, and they should be in the long run with you over time. So earlier the tiers you get as a community member, more the green flag you have, apart from the points which Sushmita already mentioned.
No, absolutely. I think that's very, very important, right? I think we as crypto investors, crypto community, we're kind of fed up a little bit with, like investors eat first, or, the cost of getting to centralized exchanges, whenever actually the community, who is actually the heartbeat of the project, gets in and they feel they've been used, right? That's really, really bad for the longevity of the project, like you guys are saying. So I think that's very important. And definitely there's so many node sales happening right now. Focus on projects that have a track record they've been building for quite some time, and not just someone that's start a project 2 months and then they have a node sale right after that. So like not I'm not saying that those projects are going to be scammers. Just be careful, right? Or just like do your proper due diligence on those projects, which is actually something that we've been focusing a lot on DePIN Hub for the past few months. We're going to start something we call verified projects. It's kind of like what Twitter started. We don't have a verified Twitter profile. We're doing that and bringing that to DePIN Hub right now. But we're going to start doing some due diligence on the projects. We're going to look, are they solving a problem? Is the team solid? Has a lot of aspects that we're looking on those projects, and start actually doing some like verification profile. Because even though we want to list almost all the DePIN projects, those though that we believe in, not all of them we can I would vouch for it, right? As an investor, as a DePIN Hub, as a community. So we want to try to help the community validate those projects as well, and working together with the project, understanding what they're doing, which I try to do that a lot, right? Like I'm always like jump on the podcast, talking to the founders, try to understand what is the problem they're trying to solve, the problem they're having. So trying to bring legitimacy to the crypto in general, because there's so much powerful things, so many good things happening. They were trying to build a better future. but then there's always a lot of people, trying to extract value whenever they can. So as much work as I can do, I can't promise that everything I do is going to be correct, but I do my best to really bring education and bring opportunities to everyone who is here listening to the podcast, joining DePIN Hub, and then being around the DePIN ecosystem, which I find that the DePIN ecosystem is really great in the sense that people are not 100% crypto, but they're actually building something else for a better world. And then crypto is just one part of the puzzle to increase the incentivization, etc.
No, I think completely get it, Daniel, because I just want to give a shout out for DePIN Aware, because a lot of our community members, whenever they want to, like the new ones who are joining in, either they have heard about DePIN Hub, or they essentially do their DD via DePIN Hub as well, because you have a listed page there where you can see everything from the Discord growth, from the Twitter growth of the project, from when did the project raise last. And if you have a podcast there, it also gives them a kind of a security that, okay, like they are legitimate, they have done some things in the past. Now with that verified check, this will completely get becoming better, because deep, like just like node sales, DePIN is also being overused a lot by projects who are not DePIN in general. And now that the good categorization between digital resource network and physical resource network, this kind of verification will help a lot to navigate, okay, that this might be a DePIN project with a digital resource network, but they are verified because they are solving XYZ task. And this is a physical resource network which solves XYZ task, but also verified because they have done some tasks. So I think it becomes a stamp of good kind of verification, which DePIN Hub already started doing since the last couple of years now.
Yeah, exactly. I know you already mentioned the dates, but I'd like for you to tell them again, like where people can go and what are the dates for participating in the whitelist and in the node sale.
Absolutely. So a couple of days right now, whitelisting is going on. It will go on for till 4th of November. And there you can whitelist yourself. For whitelisting, you just go to whitelist.huddle01.com. You just see that you will be whitelisted in, like, once you are able to verify your Discord, your Twitter. We are taking a couple of steps. Why we have kept it a bit stringent? Because we want serious people to come into a whitelist rather than just a plethora of people coming in who are actually knowing, who actually have run nodes before or are interested in what Huddle01 does. So that's whitelisting. Then our whitelist sale is happening, which is on 6th, where anyone, if you are a part of any kind of community, which includes community, including like with Huddle01's community of Aether, Zai, and community of other projects as well, DePIN Hub as well, you get essentially a part of the earlier tiers. And then on 6th, the whitelist sale is happening from tier 1 to tier 10. And then there are 7777 nodes in that, like which is getting sold. And then comes the public sale, where in totality 20,500 nodes, so around 13,000 nodes will get sold in that in the public sale phase. And again, from tier 1 to tier 10 itself, every tier has some special number of nodes. 2,500 nodes in tier 1, and then keeps on decreasing over time, the number of nodes in every tier, and the price keeps on increasing a bit. In general, the whole idea to do that is to have people who enter the system first essentially get benefit, and we have kept it completely open. Any community member who comes in first come first serve is able to get into the earliest tiers possible. There is no gatekeeping, there's no stone wall in that sense. So it's an open thing. Anyone can come in at any time, and based on the time duration, they get the tier which is the most favorable to them. And on 8th, the public sale starts and keeps on going till we are able to essentially complete the sellout. But in 2 weeks of time from public sale, the testnet will start. That means you'll get all of your nodes. You start running these nodes, and you can start running these nodes on any of the NAS providers. We have a couple of NAS providers. You can run it based on your wherever you want to run it, based on the pricing, based on if you like that NAS provider, based on a couple of other parameters as well. And in terms of public sale and whitelist sale, there's also a coupon code, a discount code, which you get if you're a part of a specialized community. You can just use that code and you can get 10% discount more. So this is the kind of phase. Sujman, correct if I've missed anything, you can feel free to add on here.
Yeah, I think that's perfect, right? So like the best part is like to get whitelisted, like, and the whitelist is like one of the short way to get the top tiers, and like the early access, and like even the 10% discount that starts on 6th. And there's always like even tier 1, tier 2, like some allocation reserved for public. So even if you are like not into like whitelist kind of thing, like you can just directly come to our website at 8th, and then you can like buy the nodes. But the thing about the tiers is that it's divided into 10 tiers, and the top tier has only 2,500 nodes. We have a cap of like 80 wallet, like maximum a wallet can buy is 80 nodes on those parts. So that would start to fill that would like the higher tier basically means that you have higher probability of getting that node for a cheaper price. But as you go down the next tier, like the node actually decreases. So the tier 10 has only 1,500 to 1,600 nodes, and it has like the highest price that you have. So that's how the everything is actually designed. So this system kind of incentivizes the early believers into the project and the people who actually came into the system early at that point. And it's like whole community power. The way that we have kept this wallet cap and everything. So like you can like only buy it like one wallet can maximum buy like 80, and like even in a whitelist, we're kind of maintaining like Discord and Twitter plugins. So this helps us with the Cyber system very well, building Cyber systems.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's a good time for also like because we haven't announced yet, but I think you're gonna hear it here first. DePIN Hub, we're also building our own NAS or Node as a Service, and our first project that we're working together is gonna be Huddle01. Is gonna be the start of the show that we're gonna start promoting and running. Because even though right now DePIN Hub is a lot like a media company, like educational, kind of like a Wikipedia of DePIN with podcasts and etc. Actually, the team building it, we're like a bunch of like data nerds, DevOps, we like infrastructure, and then we realized that okay, actually, building some sort of Node as a Service platform is something that we're born to build. So it's something that really excites us to have like okay, the whole infrastructure and make sure that we can run nodes for like a very very performant server is very effective ways to do it. And so yeah, so right now it's not live yet, but it's going to be very, very soon. I think next week we're probably going to launch like a landing page for DePIN Hub's Node as a Service. And if you use the code actually DePIN Hub 10, you're going to get 10% off the Huddle01 license. And we're also going to give you a 10% discount on your Node as a Service subscription. So what this means is that like the guys were saying that you can buy like a Huddle01 media node license and you can run on your computer, or you can run like a Raspberry Pi at home. But you need to, for the computer, you need to have it open all the time. So that's like it's good to work for some people, but not everyone. A Raspberry Pi, you need a little bit more technical knowledge. You can also, just go and rent a Linux server, SSH inside of the machine and do all the configuration yourself. If you're technical enough, I think that's the best way. But if you're not, you don't want to worry about doing anything. You can just use a DePIN Hub. You get your license. Just like a few clicks, you configure everything, and your node is going to be up and running, giving you rewards, testnet rewards, etc. And we're trying to find ways to make it super, super streamlined to help grow, Huddle01 projects to the moon and help people actually make some passive income while at the same time building like a really, really interesting decentralized network. We've been using actually Huddle01 internally for Hotspotty and DePIN Hub like company calls, and it's been really good. I love the feature that you can record calls. It's working so well. I cannot even imagine how well it's going to be when we have like all these nodes around the world and people everywhere. It's going to be being able to use it. And like you're saying, right? Like if you're in Africa and you have nodes in Africa or close to you, the thing's going to work so much better than it currently is. So I can imagine the future of Huddle01 is just getting started. Since the first time I heard about the project, I think it was 2 years ago or last year, beginning of last year or something like that, is like this is something that we really, really need. And I'm so excited to see it's actually taking force, taking like all the steps, the node sales now, and then going from there. Because I think even though the node sales is a big step, it's just one of the steps, right? There's a lot of things that you guys need to build, continuing crazy and growing this ecosystem to the point that everyone's going to be using Huddle01 without even knowing, because they're part of the back infrastructure. And yeah, I think we covered most of the topics that I would like to talk in this episode. I don't know if you guys would like to say something else for the community. And all the links we're going to put here as well. Everyone listening to, make sure to go to dpinhub.io, subscribe to the newsletter, keep an eye on our Node as a Service announcement, and a lot of great things that are coming up. Yeah, last words, guys.
Awesome. Like so much pretty announcement here, right? Like, yeah, so like it Hotspotty, like the NAS, like it gives you one of the very cool way to like basically host the node. So you don't need to worry about like setting up the open ports or or worry about your home bandwidth being taken away, like when video nodes is online and operational. Just give it to NAS, delegate your NFT, and just sit back, eat popcorn, and earn a passive income.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we have been working together with Daniel as well on this for a couple of weeks now, essentially regarding the deployments. And Daniel has been super hands on that part. So I think pretty stoked on the DePIN Hub community, essentially also joining the mission, also essentially using DePIN Hub itself as an as. And with Huddle01 kickstarting it, I'm feel pretty honored that we are kickstarting it with DePIN Hub, and then it keeps on going, and we see some super successful node sales also deploying on DePIN Hub as one of the NAS. Last words is just that this is a very critical mission for us. We have been building for 4 years into this. We'll keep on building for next 10 years, 15 years into this, because communication needs to be people powered. Internet needs to belong back to the people, and communication is one of the most important categories to make sure that humans can innovate better and better. And in last 20 years, we have just moved away from something like Skype to Zoom. If we need to make sure our communication becomes more Iron Man style, we are able to do this holographic calls. Sky is the limit, and for that you need to bring the latency down. You need to bring the performance up. You need to do the privacy up, and all of this while making sure that you are also able to earn from that network. And that can only happen when all of us believe in this mission and start running it ourselves and take the power back. See you on 6th, and see you on 8th, and on next couple of days. Yeah.
And next conferences as well, right? We see how it's around the world.
Absolutely.
Oh, thanks so much for joining. I think it was a pleasure. I was super excited to see this. And yeah, let's go back to building, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Bye.
Have a great one, guys.